All right, shalom, shalom. First things first, I want to give our honor and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim Chakorash. We say Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai, Bahashim Chakorash. And we give double honors to our apostles and our elders, which are the apostle elders, the great millstone, which feed us with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding through the spirit and power of Yahweh Yahushai. Let's jump right into this news
to use
story.
their airspace
Hold
and
on,
their air.
Salakia. You see what's taking place now. We have more skirmishes after Nero, all right, decided to announce that he was going to rain down hell, as he says, on his post on infrastructure of Iranian citizens, which, according to the Geneva Convention, is a war crime. All right, so you have all types of uproars that are happening, and we see this fulfilling prophecy, because the scripture tells us in Revelation that they shall hate the whore that sitteth upon the scarlet colored beast and burn her with fire. All right, so we are seeing the culmination of that prophecy coming to pass, because if this takes place, which there's no sign of slowage when it comes to this skirmish, and you got people that are coming out the woodwork, Italy, Australia, we have UK, we had Great Britain. All right, so all of these places that were coming up against Babylon's intentions, if Babylon goes through with it, that's going to force these nations to be that much more an opponent or being adverse to what Babylon's trying to do. Okay, so this is beautiful. This is a report here from Media Touch. All right, and he pretty much breaks it down. This was about 8 hours ago, so it's relatively new. But he goes in and says things. So this is fair use, fair use. This is for educational purposes only. This is just to show what's happening on a wide scale. And then I have some news articles too to bring out. So let's watch this close.
Bases. World leaders are done with Donald Trump. Get the hell out of our air bases. Get the hell out of our airspace. You are committing war crimes, and we are not going to aid and abet your war crimes in this catastrophic and unlawful criminal war against Iran, as you're now threatening to rain down hell and bomb Iran and the Iranian civilization to the Stone Age. The United Kingdom has now joined the growing list of countries that are refusing to allow the United States to use their airspace and their air bases. We knew about France and Austria and Spain, and we knew about many of Italy saying, do not use our air bases and our airspace to commit your war crimes. And the United Kingdom is now saying it is refusing to allow the United States to use air bases, particularly the Royal Air Force Fairford and Diego Garcia bases, which long-range strategic bombers with the U.S. Air Force have previously utilized on a case-by-case basis to carry out strikes on Iran for missions that target Iranian bridges, power plants, or other civilian infrastructure, citing concerns that such strikes could harm civilians and constitute war crimes, senior officials tell the iPaper. And this evening, Donald Trump says at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, he will be raining down hell. He's going to blow up all the power plants, all of the bridges. He says he's going to destroy essentially the civilization of Iran. And the UK saying, we're not going to be a part of it. Good luck. See you later. This is a massive, massive development over here. The special relationship between the US and the UK gone. Frankly, at this point, NATO only exists in name only. NATO just
Article 5. So this is the fulfillment of prophecies, man. We've been waiting on it. We've been prophesying through the spirit and power of Yahbashim Yahushai. The earth is well aware of this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding through the prophets that have been laboring on the four corners of the planet Earth, namely in Babylon the Great. You have men that are on the corners around the earth that are pushing the same gospel, and that's a beautiful thing. And you see it culminate, man. This is what we've been waiting on. Now you like the brother in Carolina says, who's crazy now? We ain't looking too crazy. We're on point. That's why it says you shall know that a prophet have been among you when these things come to pass. So they don't have to look at us and try to say, oh well, you guys don't know what you're talking about. It's happening. Okay? Prophecy's already been said. This has been quoted and broken down that this was gonna take place. All right? let's see here. This is the report. It says 5 hours ago, explainer: European state splits over U.S. access to Iran operation. Okay. It says Washington NATO allies facing mounting pressure over access to airspace. Bases responses expose growing divided among allies, while some places limit, other opt for what is that, procedural reviews alongside those granting access. Let's go down here. As the war in Iran continues, European nations are facing mounting pressure from the U.S. to grant access to their airspace and military bases, with response exposing and growing divided, particularly among NATO allies. These shall hate the whore that sitteth upon the scarlet colored beast, because NATO is being ran and operated. The unsaid ruler of it is Babylon. Now all these NATO nations are coming up against this place. This is the cataclysm that now we're seeing prophecy and how it's going to play out precisely. That's why it says we prophesy in part. We knew that there was going to be a skirmish. We knew that there was going to be a rift. We knew that there was going to be something that was used to make these allies turn against somebody that they've been backing and going with into the darkness for a long time. All right. While some capitals are moving to distance themselves from the conflict, they have not authorized. Others are prioritized transatlantic alignment with Washington. This involvement friction is testing the limits of European coordination, legal accountability, and long-term cohesion of this alliance. Spain says no to war. Spain already did a report on that. Many European governments have adopted a cautious posture, either placing strict limits on U.S. requests or subjecting them to rigorous procedural reviews. Spain has emerged with one of the firmest stances, maintaining its long-standing no to war position. Madrid has denied U.S. access to airspace with operation linked to Iran. This restrict extends to U.S. aircraft stationed in the third countries, including the UK, France, according to Spanish military sources cited by El Press. And I wanted to bring this out. It says what? Exclusive increase U.S. air. Hold on. Let me find the article. Babaka Shah. This is beautiful, man. Beautiful. Let's see here. Yep, Britain. This was on February 20th. So Britain's been against this for. Britain blocks airspace blocking use of airspace. Trump says would be needed for strikes on Iran. Okay, and what should come to your mind? This is the book of Jeremiah. Let's read in the Amplified. This is the book of Jeremiah 50, and let's read in the Amp. 50 and verse 12, but we're going to start, let's start at 11. Though you, Salakia, though you were glad, though you rejoiced, O you who plundered my heritage. How's this being broken down? This is going back into the Roman Empire that besieged the temple, and how you can pinpoint in history was the Ark of Titus. The Ark of Titus was commemorated to signify a battle or a triumph. And also you have a coin called Judah Copta. Okay, Judah captured, and it shows a woman below a palm tree that's being pretty much put into the ground. Okay, that's been brought low. Okay, so they commemorated it in coinage and also in a monument. So they can't even hide that they did it. You pretty much made a monument to taking the Lord's house. All right, the power of all powers. So you can't even say, oh shit, we didn't do it. That's why they want to pull themselves away from the identity of Romans, and oh, this nation is done away with. But if you trace back the identity of the Romans, you see that they are Idumeans. Okay, they're descendants of the Edomites. Okay, no matter if they knew it or not, but through the process of history being pieced together, you can see where their origins go back to. Okay, Romulus and Remus, if I'm not mistaken, because the original Romans were the Japhetic people. Okay, that's where you get the togas. There, the toga wearing, all those things go back to those the Polynesian people, Japhet. But they took over that place, and then they started calling themselves Romans. That's why it says they called the lands after their own names. Okay, they rename it, or they change it into something, or they themselves sit as rulers in that land. And another example is Cleopatra. Okay, you have the Ptolemy dynasty. That's where you get a lot of these. What does it say? These icons that have been whitewashed, that have been put up, and to show that they were the rulers in that time. And Cleopatra is one. She's a Edomite. That's not no. You tell the average person about Cleopatra, they'll try to put it into a dark-skinned woman. Okay, and it says, though you were glad, though you rejoiced, you plunder of my heritage, though you are wanton and skip about like a heifer in the grass, as in nobody's gonna touch this place. He says that dwell without care, the unwalled villages, okay, because this place is in defenses, is not on a high alert, because you have this place that's never been touched. All right, besides you had Pearl Harbor. It says, as nigh, like it says, and neigh like stallions. Your mother Babylon shall be greatly ashamed. She who gave you birth will be ashamed. Behold, she will be the least of the nations, wilderness and parched lands and of a desert. Because of the wrath of the Lord, she will not be inhabited, but she will be completely desolate. Everyone who goes by Babylon will be appalled and will hiss and mock at her wounds and plagues. That's what you call, because Babylon is gonna turn into a museum of judgment. It's gonna show you what happens when the Lord judges a nation on the level that He's going to judge in the time to come. That's why you have Sodom and Gomorrah, which was found, it was laid waste to ashes. You have the sphinxes that were there that were burnt to a crisp. They were roasted, man. All right, in sulfur fire. So the same thing you see today, or this modern judgment, this modern Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be immortalized in a big desert landmass that you may see. No one's going to dwell here, but you're going to be able to pass by it and hiss, just like you go see what does it say, a war commemoration or a war museum. This is where the battle of such and such took place. That's what Babylon is going to turn to. It's going to turn to a gazing stock, a place that you look at and you tour and you fear the judgment that took place there, man. There's 300 odd some million people in Babylon the Great. That's a lot of bodies, and the 1/3 and the 144,000 and the 1/3 are the ones that's going to be preserved and saved through this fire. Okay, just like they were preserved and saved through the river. All right, through the waters that were split, the Red Sea. All right, that was another deliverance. This one is going to be the new deliverance, passing through the fire instead of water. The first destruction was by water, and then who was made it? Noah. Now this one's going to be by fire, and the elect are going to be the ones that are preserved and taken through those straits. All right, that's why it says fire on one side and fire on the other side. Where you see 10,000 at your side is put to death. I'm paraphrasing. That's in the book of Psalms. But you see it now that the mother of Babylon, which is Great Britain, because that's where America stems out of, is ashamed of this place because of what's going down in the Iran conflict. So all these things are brewing up. NLT says, but your homeland will be overwhelmed with shame and disgrace, which you see happening today. That's why they're calling it a war crime. You will become the least of the nations, a wilderness, a dry and desolate land. See? King James Version, your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. And that's what we're getting ready to see. We're getting ready to see judgment, destruction on a high level, man. A high level is coming to Babylon the Great for the injustice and the wickedness that is promoted and it's pushed. The chickens are coming home, man. All right? Now we see these other nations that are coming up against this place. Hold on. That story. We'll just jump to the next one. Salakia. Let's go. So let's go here. Let's see videos. Two days. Yeah, we want the most up-to-date one, but the article says it all here. Let's finish reading this, and then I'll get the precepts. It says Spain authority also rejected deployment of strategic bombers on bases southern Spain, citing the lack of international legal backing. Okay. Let's see here. 5 hours ago, why did Italy deny U.S. bombers access to Italian airspace? So Italy's going against it. Claims circulating online suggest Italy denied U.S. airspace access to the Cygonio base in Sicily for the potential reason linked to the war in Iran. However, official statements reporting that from multiple sources indicate the situation is more procedural than political. So they just trying to pretty much put a spin on it, not to rouse up the people. But the point is there. The damage is done. One is enough. One is enough. You don't need a gang, because now they're seeing that Babylon ain't what it cut out. It's not something to be stand behind. And it's all through this Iran war and the move that Nero made. That was a bad move on that part, but that was the move that Yahweh Shem Yahshua wanted them to make. Okay, Isaiah 13:19. Let's read it in Amplified. First, it says, Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' pride, will be like Sodom and Gomorrah when Yahweh overthrew them. Because how were Sodom and Gomorrah, the 5 cities, judged? Fire. Fire is how it was judged. That's why it's not a coincidence that the second death is going to be by fire. So fire is what's going to be used to quench the planet Earth of the wickedness that is grown on it, man. NLT. It says, but Babylon, the most glorious of kingdoms, the flower of the Chaldeans' pride, will be devastated like Sodom and Gomorrah when Yahweh destroyed them. See? Ain't no, oh, this is gonna be all right. No. Judgment is coming. The witnesses have stood trial. The Lord has sent forth out the judgment written. Destruction, judgment, man. All right? And this is the book of Revelation 18 and verse 2, it says, and he cried with a mighty voice, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a lair for demons and a haunt of every unclean spirit, every unclean bird, and every detestable beast. This land is going to turn into a wasteland, just like you see desert dwelling creatures. That's what's going to be here. No more men. All right. It's going to be, and then on top of that, the uranium, the nuclear waste that's going to be here. The Geiger counter is going to go off the roof, so you ain't going to be able to be here, man. Okay. Jeremiah 51:37, Babylon will become a heap of rubbles, a haunt for jackals, an object of horror and scorn without an habitation, because you're going to see this place as a gazing stock, and a place that is a monument to the judgment of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Just like Sodom and Gomorrah was a judgment. So that show you Sodom and Gomorrah had to be around. And if you look on YouTube, they found the locations. They found sulfur balls. They found skeletons. They found that, man. All right. So all that judgment that took place is coming again. All right. So I'm gonna leave it there. Lord willing, is edifying lesson. I just wanted to bring this information out to show that this thing is unraveling on the side of Babylon behind this war. And it's only going to intensify the longer it takes, because that's going to push back the time for normality. But it's not going to go back to normal. That new financial structure and system is what's being pushed to the forefront. All right. So with that, Lord willing, is edifying lesson, I'm going to say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Hakorash. Until the next time, I say shalom and more, not never keep faith. Shalom. Shalom.